everyone, I wanted to share a full start to finish process video with you for my WERERAT piece. I made this drawing in Procreate. It's a pretty simple drawing, but all the same, I figured some of you may want to see each step in how I create something like this. I'll also be sharing info about the brushes I use and things like layer setting so you can recreate this process yourself. Sound good? Then let's get started. So first step, of course, is to sketch the thing. My sketching style is very loose. In fact, when I start, I don't even lift the pencil off the screen with each stroke. I'm mostly scribbling around until I find a shape I like. I do this very lightly, so it might be hard to see. Once I have an overall shape I like, I start going back in a bit darker with more refined details. You can see I'm spending more time on the face and hands since those are points of interest. The purpose of the sketch is so I know where to put my ink lines later. So if I need precise ink lines, I need precise sketch details. If I can be more loose with my inking, like in the fur, then I don't sketch as much detail. Now on to my favorite part, inking. For this, I've been using the Rusty Nib brush set from True Grit Studio. There's tons of brushes in this set. It's almost overwhelming. I've actually added an emoji star to my favorite brushes so I can pick them out easily. I use a really grungy brush for this called the Sludger. I love this brush because you can get both thick and thin strokes out of it, and it's a bit unpredictable, so it leaves a lot of messy streaks, giving your ink lines an interesting texture. As I'm inking the hands and some of the face and ear details, I'm not worrying too much about precision. In fact, having wavy or distorted lines adds to the beastliness of this character. One technique I do while inking is to make a very thick stroke and then go back and erase out parts of it to create a texture or refine the line a bit better. This is especially useful in making fur details. When it comes to the fur, since I didn't really define where to ink in my sketch, I mostly have fun with it. I make a lot of varied strokes to make clumps of fur. Some of the fur is represented in repeating strokes, and others are a bit more deliberate spiky shapes to give the fur a distinct outline, especially in the fur along the back. Making it spiky will give this WERERAT a unique silhouette. Next up is to make a solid fill. I do this so that I can color however I want without worrying about going outside of my lines. It'll also give me options later on for other effects. To make my solid fill, I make a new layer under my lines and start filling in my line art. You can see I focus on the outline so I can just paint bucket the center to fill the whole thing. You can't really see in this video, but I've also duplicated my ink layer. I turned the duplicate white and merged it with my fill layer. That way, if I make the top ink layer a bit transparent, some of the color in the fill will show through underneath. I don't actually consider myself to be that great with colors. I just use some basic color theory ideas to get started and see where it goes. I knew for this rat that I wanted it to be a sickly green color. So first I chose a set of closely associated analogous colors so I'd have lots of options for bringing out some sickly greens. Then I chose a complementary color based on the middle analogous color. Finally, I set up some offshoots of all of these color choices, mainly by increasing or decreasing the saturation and brightness. This gives me options later on for if I want to color something darker or lighter, or add more or less intense colors. Before I start coloring, I color the line art first. I've made two duplicates of my line art and I color them both green and set them to a lower opacity. I'll explain more later in this video. To color, I use a set of watercolor brushes from the Watercolor Max Pack set. These brushes are amazing for blending colors and getting lots of interesting texture. I start coloring by putting some light washes over the entire WERERAT. The idea is that no matter what I color the fur or the hands and the face, they'll be a bit unified by a base color underneath. Then I grab the lasso tool to separate the fur from everything else. Procreate has the best selector tool I've ever experienced. I'll probably make another video about that later. And then I just start laying on colors bit by bit. The Max Pack set has both normal and opaque brushes, so I tend to use the normal colors again and again to get things darker or more bold, and then touch up anything I overdid with the opaque brushes to make them brighter or in different colors. I'm also using different colors from my analogous set so that there's a nice blend in greens and not just one solid color. After the fur is done, I make the opposite selection and do the skin, claws, and eye. The WERERAT is looking a little flat, so I duplicate the color layer and fill it with a solid desaturated dark purple. Then I use the airbrush to blend in some light yellows where the light might hit. Then it's just a matter of playing with layer settings and opacity until I find something that looks good. So to recap, most of my basic Procreate drawings come in 4 parts. The base part is the color fill. I merge down a duplicate of the ink layer so that the color layer fits perfectly under my inks, so that it'll color my inks too. I start with white, then continuously add my watercolor brushes over it until I get the colors I like. Above that is the first ink layer. I lock this layer and color it with the main character color and set it to overlay. It'll pick up the colors underneath it in interesting ways. Because overlay will make the ink a bit too light in certain parts, I make another duplicate and set the second ink layer to linear burn. This helps darken the line art again. Finally, I duplicate the base color fill layer, bring it all the way to the top, and add some solid dark and light colors and play with the layer settings and opacity until something looks good. In this case, I used purple and yellow and set it to a soft light at 20% opacity. And that's about it. After you're done with your character art, you can tweak some colors in Photoshop or even add an interesting grungy background. Spooky! Thanks for watching! Hope you enjoyed this video, and leave a message in the comments about what you think and what you'd like to see in the future. Catch you next time.